the StarRealms digital test. My name is Nathan Davis. I'm an editor on StarRealms, and joining me as producer is Jay Lonsdale. Jay, how are you doing?
Hi. So, I'm doing pretty good.
Are you excited?
I'm excited for this tournament for sure. I'm very excited for the rest of the weekend as well.
Excellent.
And looking to see what's going to happen.
And my headphones falling off. Welcome to the test. Okay. So, in a moment, we're going to have two of our intrepid volunteers play the game, and we will talk through it, and then we'll come back and catch you there. So, let's go ahead and have our players start. Let's get down to the action. All right, so we have Oz Method, also known in real life as Nathan Yoakum. He is our Gamma player on the left, and on the right is Zachary Catazzaro, also known as Cazelli. We're going to start with an event right away. It's Comet, and so people are going to be scrapping cards from their hand right at the beginning of the game. So, what an opening for Cazelli.
It was a bit of a disadvantage to get the events on the very first turn.
Yes, well, especially this event.
Especially this event, because, like, how many are you really going to scrap, especially when you're trying to buy something like that missile bot over there?
So grabbing the missile bot is a pretty common turn one play, especially if it's available, because scrapping is a thing.
Yeah, scrapping early on, the earlier you can start with scrapping, the thinner your deck becomes over time, which is obviously very useful, because later on when you buy your good cards, you want to have as little, a small of amount of cards in your deck to be able to draw all those good cards as often as possible.
Absolutely. So we cannot currently see the game, I say to our gentleman in the booth. There we go. All right, so we lost a little bit. Here's Supernova, and wipe that trade row and make the game a little bit longer.
So we are now in Cazelli's turn.
Yeah, it's back to Cazelli. It's another Comet. So that's the second Comet. There's no more in the deck. And so he's going to have a couple. That's what he started with. So he's got an extremely thin deck. These decks are going to be very, very, very efficient right away.
All right.
So he's got some damage on. Scores 45 for Cazelli, 44 for Oz Method. And now we go over to Oz Method's turn, and we're going to see that turn play out.
So this is part of the fact that we're playing on the digital app. You see the opponent's turn, because otherwise Oz Method would not know what would actually happen in Cazelli's turn. So, they might be talking about this. We can't currently hear them, but, All
right, so he's going to strap two cards. He's going to get the Viper out of his hand, and one of the scouts from his discard pile.
So choosing to scrap a Viper out of his hand, despite that it could deal a damage this turn, over the long term, it's probably not going to matter that one damage, but not drawing any Vipers, in the first couple turns means he maximizes his trade potential.
So you're on Team Scrap Viper.
I understand the team scrap, especially like he had a freighter, which is another big buy machine. There's a couple of more expensive cards on the trade row, like we see a blob carrier there.
Yep.
I can see, him shooting for that one.
So if you're Alpha, what are you building towards here? He's got...
So he's got two scrappers and a recycling station.
Yes.
So I think at this point he is hoping to see some cheap damage cards, because he doesn't have a ton of trade.
Right.
Whereas Oz Method has the advantage there with the freighter.
Yeah, he's going to get up to...
a blob carrier?
Yeah, blob carrier, right?
Yeah.
Well, not this turn, apparently. But
this is a good flip, though. I think being able to get the Imperial fighter will be pretty useful, because like when you have such a thin deck, all you want to do is draw a bunch of damage cards, finish off the game.
Oh, this is golden.
This is great. Yeah, the old combo of discard two cards, draw two scrappers to scrap those two cards you just discarded.
It's been good from the beginning. It's still good now.
Yep, we're seeing Cazelli firing all cylinders here.
And you don't normally care.
So we see that Kazali's checking, like, what do I even have? Like, what am I trying to buy here? Because he has so few cards left. Because he scrapped a Viper on the first comment,
Right.
2 cards from the second comment, just scrapped 2 more from his missile bot and a supply bot.
Yeah, he's down to
6 cards total.
Yes, he's down. He's got
with the recycling station, I guess,
right.
So 7.
So he's going to be able to draw he can draw his whole deck. So now he's got to figure out. Yeah, so he's going to start. He could have purchased, for instance, the battle station for more defense. He could have purchased the
trading post,
trading
some
post,
sort of lasting trade bonus.
But he wanted to pick up an explorer so he could get to the blob carrier. It looks like.
Yeah, I guess he's going to try and fight Oz Method on that.
Well, I mean, as you see, he drew really well, but Oz Method has Freighter. We know that he doesn't.
Yeah, there we go.
So here we see Oz Method's view.
Yeah.
Again,
also checking his own deck, as you see. A lot of digital players do this often to try and keep track of, okay, how much do I have? What am I working towards? And I'm a little surprised.
I'm in shock, actually.
So, well, so he did not buy the blob carrier that we were talking about so much. Instead, he bought the battle mech, but he is getting behind on, the scrapping compared to Caselli.
It's true.
And this, he had 8 trades, so this let him buy 2 things, which, I can see.
I mean, that's more efficient, I suppose, in a way, but he can't possibly catch up on the scrap. Like, Caselli's deck is nearly empty.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Of the starting cards, so...
Yeah,
so this is going to give an opportunity. Caselli here is going to get 6 that way. It's going to leave a card in his hand to scrap for the missile mech, and out it goes. So Caselli has a very tight, efficient deck. Now, do you scrap the explorers here, or do you keep them in?
I don't think so.
Money?
Now you have
a little too soon.
A little too soon. Like, both players are still in the high 30s.
Yep.
So I think you still have another round, especially since he's going through his deck so quickly. Like, if he does it next round, that's just as fine. And I think he's trying to get one of those blob destroyers, for example. Would be a good addition to that blob carrier.
So while we are on the testing screen, I'm going to ask my friend in the booth, this green rectangle in the lower right-hand corner, is that going on the stream? All right, thank you very much. So there goes the recycling station. That's good. I might be too little too late. He's going to have a great hand. It just might be slightly less great than it otherwise would have been. But
yeah, I mean, recycling station, once your deck is so efficient, he has
what are you going to discard anyway?
He has very few bad cards left. It does give him a bit of a dilemma, because now, what are you doing with the supply bot? Are you scrapping a scout? Are you waiting to see, because he's looking in his discard pile trying to see, did I forget? Was there a scout there? No, there really wasn't. He's going to scrap.
Now, he's running the risk of over-scrapping. It's going to be...
well, this is a good flip, though. I wonder if he's going to buy it.
He should.
No.
I absolutely buy that. For a couple of reasons. One, getting the more trade, especially given how efficient your deck is. And 2, it keeps your opponent from getting it.
Yeah.
And...
That is indeed...
He might have been worried about an event flipping up. So we do have events in this game. And he might not have wanted, especially with an empty hand.
That's a good point. I think they're playing with because we see a hero.
Yeah, heroes and events are in this in the base game, if I remember correctly.
All right. So
one of the advantages of the digital app, for those of you that are new to the digital version of StarRealms, is that we have all 4 crisis sets. We have the Gambit set in, and the Gambit set also comes with the Year 1 promos, and those can be toggled on or on for each game you play. In the digital 1K that's happening today, every round is going to be a new format, so it's really putting the test right to the players. That's a nice draw. So he's going to discard both of his gold, right, and draw, because he's got 2 green cards to draw.
Yeah, possibly.
Lay that damage in, right? So you discard the scout and the explorer. You draw.
He might just discard.
No, it's got to be. Yeah,
there we go.
All right. Well, that could have been better, but it's still very good.
Yeah. Scrapping the scout because he's not going to use it. Scrapping the other scout. There we go. And piling on another 9 damage.
13.
13 and with the ally bonuses.
15 if he scraps the other explorer.
He is counting.
He may have overscrapped.
His opponent is already at 18, so I think that's not going to be the problem. If he would just draw the blob carrier and the blob destroyer every turn, I think we're fine here.
That's a good place to be.
So we see Ozmethod desperately trying to catch up, scrapping some of the bad cards. But
that base, unfortunately, is not going to help him. That battle station is a little late.
Yeah. Well,
So Ozmethod has a ridiculous turn. It's going to make his opponent discard a bunch, and he's going to deal a ton of damage. It's not clear that he's going to see another turn.
Yeah. I'm going to see. He's counting. Looking at his opponent's deck, trying to see what kind of trouble am I in for. Well,
here it comes.
Looking like it's going to be a whole lot. Yeah, so he's considering scrapping here, but no need, obviously, because you can scrap those Explorers at any time you want for a bunch of damage.
So he's going to be just
12,
barely short.
14, 16 if he scraps the Explorers.
Oh, boy.
He is not going to
He just barely didn't make it.
Bought the Ram. So are you buying the Cutter here?
Obviously.
Just to deny it from, because what if your opponent...
It denies it to your opponent, and also, by the way, it's yet another piece of the Cutter conspiracy. And he's not going to buy it.
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, yeah.
Also, there's an event that comes up, right? And
it could be a Galactic Summit, and suddenly every player could have 7 extra life. And I think, indeed, with the cards left in his deck, he has so much damage. Like, what can his opponent... And he's checking that right now. What can his opponent possibly do?
Yeah, well, what he can possibly do is get up a fair amount of damage.
So we see the opponent trying the last
bit. He's got to look in his face.
And we're doing a whole...
And he got there!
Oh.
Just barely.
Woo. That's a lot of damage.
That was a ton of damage. We lost a little bit on that. So they're going to rematch.
Because we're doing best 2 out of 3.
I think they're actually just playing 2 games. They can go ahead and do any format they want. If you want to just tell them that. Or they're just going to pick. Excellent. So, while we continue with the test stream, let me talk a little bit about our schedule of events for the rest of the day. We are in the middle of the digital 1K, which is to say that somebody's going to be walking away with $1,000 for playing StarRealms today. And then after that, we're going to get to the main event. Black Hole to start. Oh, put the screws right to him. I think you just take the 8 damage, right?
So Black Hole, an event that makes people discard 2 cards. And if they don't, for every card that they do not discard, they take 4 damage. So a maximum of 8 damage. Early on, look at the trade row. What are you buying with your scouts? There's an Imperial Fighter there. There's a Blob Fighter. And I guess, he just discards 2 and gets the 1 Blob Fighter. I guess hoping that his opponent... hoping that his opponent also takes a bunch of damage, and then hopefully, with the aggressive trade row...
Yeah. Well, if I'm here, I discard a card, and then I buy the Plasma Bot. Right, that's what that was.
The Patrol Mech.
Patrol Mech.
So he's definitely considering it. I think I could also see, since we're playing with events, I could see an argument being made for the Battle Screecher. Because being able to scrap up to 5 cards, it does increase the chance of events popping up. And the more events you see during the course of the game, most likely I find that it brings the game to an end faster. People get to buy more, they get to deal more damage.
Make their deck more efficient.
And we see here that Battle Screecher is indeed being bought. When you already have a bunch of blob cards, you just scrap as much as possible and try to flip a bunch of supernovas and other things that deal your opponent damage. The other side we're seeing there. Some discard being bought here. Another flip. Yeah, this is always the tricky part of buying cards that deal damage early on. So, you still have those Vipers in your deck, and if you draw both your Vipers and a damage card, suddenly you only have 2 scouts that you're buying stuff with. That hurts, I think, early on, especially with such an aggressive trade row, when you can't keep, buying more aggressive cards.
However, next turn, he has potential of having 7 gold, 7 trade, and he's got there. So, early discard, rarely relevant, especially if your opponent still has Vipers. However, in this moment, he has no Vipers in his hand, and so he's going to have to discard something relevant.
And he's deciding to discard a Blob Fighter here, which, it's a card he bought, but it's kind of like a Viper early on. It deals some damage, but not relevant enough. Damage. And, this lets him buy something that costs 4, because there were 2 juicy 4-cost cards on the trade row.
So, in right there, we had Galactic Summit pop up. It gave each person an extra 7 authority. Yeah. It's going to stretch the game out an extra turn on average. And it significantly weakens that early that early damage play.
Yeah, those early blobs. So here we see, there's... So basically...
That's a weird setup because they both now, given the fact that they've just gotten an extra 15% health, given the fact that they've just had the game stretch out, they're now incentivized to build to a larger late game. But the trade row isn't helping that at all.
Nope.
You got nothing. You got little tiny dinky ships and a battle station. And granted, battle station will always stretch the game, but
yeah. So we'll see what happens here. He's thinking about it. Like, are we going to scrap just everything? So basically, in his hand, he has one scout. So not a lot to buy. Although the battle screecher will give him 2 trade, and the blob fighter might give him another, scout if he draws it, which would put him up to 4. So maybe you leave something. I think I just scrap 5 cards here. Like, we're on the aggressive plan. We just want as much drama as possible. This is not a great flip for him.
Nope.
We see a central office show up on the field, which we know what's in Caselli's hand.
However, he did. So he's got a scrapper option. He's going to grab it. He's got a trade pod, which no one does not test like that.
And he's making him discard 1.
Yeah,
which,
very, very relevant.
Yeah, because his opponent had exactly 7, and now having to discard 1 is going to be 1 short to buy either the central office or the machine base. I'm sure that stings. So what are we doing here with the 6? It's possible, like, I could see an argument for going with the battle station, which, if it sticks around a little bit, it might turn on that patrol mech, although the opponent does have a lot of damage here.
So there's an interesting situation that's coming up here. Oz Method has trade row control. Caselli does not. Oz Method has more damage in his deck than Caselli has. Yeah, that's where I was going. So grabbing that battle station, I think it's a good play. Okay, he needs to be told. Yeah, it's 2 fingers.
Actually, I think if you...
Yeah, I'm going to tell him. Actually, I'm going to help him out.
So Nathan's stepping out of the booth for a second. We are playing with not actual like iPads. These are giant Windows tablets, basically, which are a little, there we go. So they have to tap with 2 fingers because it's like a computer, and those work slightly different than actual tablets. And all right, so we're going to switch back over to Oz Method, who has 4 trade and a blob destroyer. He's buying the hero, which lets him scrap. We'll see if he uses that immediately or if he's going to save it. He does have a missile bot in his deck that he could use the hero to ally with. Let's see what he's buying. Right, so he bought a Merc Cruiser, which is a ship that can ally with any kind of faction, and hit an event, the Comet. Comet is going to let him scrap 2 of his scouts. So in this case, he's leaving the Viper, leaning on his ability to overpower the opponent with a bunch of damage, and thinking that the trade's going to be less relevant than the damage. So yeah, he played all his cards. Using his War Elder now might not be exactly what he wants. So here we see that same turn play out again from the opponent's perspective. So we have a Comet resolving, bunch of damage being dealt, and now resolve that Comet for yourself. Also scrapping 2 scouts, so probably realizing that his opponent is being very aggressive, so needing to keep up with the damage race here. Getting a bunch of discards in definitely helps there. So we've got 13 damage lined up, considering maybe scrapping that survey ship to make it for a 3rd discard, but it might be a little early for that still. So with 2 trade, we're basically looking at buying an Explorer or a Federation shuttle. There's no blue in his deck. I'm not sure that's going to help him very much. At this point, I think I'd rather buy an Explorer. What do you think?
I agree. His opponent has no blue either, but the board is incredibly blue. And so the question is, do you believe that the game is going to last 2 shuffles from here?
Yeah, and are you gonna, like, suppose you buy that Federation shuttle and something yellow flips up or something red? I think you basically want to buy that. So I think, if I'm interested in buying something here right now, and it's a very possible maybe we're not at all interested in buying anything, and we just go like this.
He's gonna let it.
He's gonna let it go.
Yeah, he's got 7 for next turn too. Well, 6 plus whatever flips.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
2 discards, and we
I would not discard.
Immediately discard his scouts. I guess in the mindset of I'm just here to deal a bunch of damage. I'm not going to buy anything.
Well, he's definitely going to. The game's not going to be over on the next turn, right? He's definitely going to have to shuffle at least one more time. I don't know about discarding. I don't know about discarding to.
He's consistently doing it, and I guess he's figuring hey, my opponent just didn't buy anything, is not interested in blue. I'm not interested in blue, and I think I'm ahead in the damage race with the
Well, and he did just check it, yes.
So it's.
So for me, the buy here is obvious. You're buying both of the authority that's showing, and I'm wrong.
Well, so I think I like machine base here because it's an outpost, which central office is not. So it protects during that damage race, as well as scrapping a bunch of the bad cards, because Cazelli still has a lot of scouts in his deck, and I can definitely see trying to filter some of that.
They're not bad cards. They're just designed that way.
Yes, I am aware that is the case. However, some of his other cards are definitely better, and I would like to draw those more often than the scouts.
There's High Priest Lyle. It's going to help him scrap, but it's actually far more importantly going to help him get an extra 2 damage on another turn. Opens up a spot.
So once again, we see a very conservative line, I think, with the Battle Screecher. So I really think that Osmith is thinking, hey, this trade row is not advantageous for my opponent, and I think I'm ahead in this game. Let's, leave it where it is. I'm just taking away the big battleship, the Dreadnought, that might swing the race if my opponent was able to purchase it. And
we got a shuffle coming up.
Cazelli, has the ability to get to up to 7 trade. So he's gotten rid of that one.
Okay, this game is going to be ending soon.
I think so, yeah. There's a bunch of damage, and we see Cazelli.
Yeah, so I think you just
pretty low.
Play out here. You scrap the... That's frigate, right? I can't read it.
Yeah.
And then draw a card, go in, and hit as hard as you can.
So we're seeing, see that all those scouts still there.
I'd love to see what's left in this deck. I don't know if he has 30... he doesn't have 31 damage in his deck entirely. So even if he shuffles and plays every card, he can't win right now.
So we see kind of desperation mode, because I think he feels the end is near. 15 damage, that's half the life total, but now, having scrapped the Imperial Frigate, he has 10 in his hand, which is not going to be enough. And then I think here we see that's 6. Then he's trying to consider, what am I doing with my Mercruiser? What's gonna, which color is it gonna have to be? Scrapping a scout for good measure, because I guess
why not?
we're dragging it out.
Well,
here,
he's waiting because he's going to draw a card, and if he draws,
he has 12 damage currently, and he's playing a 5 damage card. His opponent is at 15. This is just torture.
Yeah.
This is just torture.
This is the end. The sick ribbons.
Well done.
Well done.
All right.
So in 2 straight games,
Osmethod takes it down.
Osmethod takes it down. And so there is our first test match. In about 15 minutes, if my math is right, we're going to start getting our digital 1K players in here to throw down with stakes on the line. So if you like what you see, please give us a shout on the Twitch stream or at StarRealms, and on Facebook you can find us at the StarRealms game. So for Jay, I'm Nathan. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.